Okay, let's see how we go. Just setting the live stream up. Fingers crossed it's going to work. Okay, good. This is looking good. Okay, make sure that OBS is working. Let's just get the airplane up and running first. To remember how to fly this thing now. First things first, let's get the throttles sorted out. There we go. Apply, go back, resume. And let's see what we've got in terms of throws on the throttles. That looks good. And flaps are working. Doesn't have air brakes. So just check the flaps switch. Yep, that's all perfect. I'm just testing the control throws, everything inside the cockpit, make sure everything's looking good. Okay, so generators on. Fuel pumps on. And we should be good to turn the engines over. I just want to check how loud this is compared to me. Yeah, it's incredibly loud. So let's turn the sim down a bit. So it's at about 20, minus 20. Maybe even a bit less. Okay, let's go and have a look outside. Is the propeller going? It is. We haven't introduced fuel yet. There goes the fuel. We haven't. Okay, so let's have a look outside again. That's looking a lot better. Okay, get the engine started. Flaps to takeoff position. Let's go and sort the lights out. So we want the anti-collision lights on, we want the position lights on, no smoking, the seatbelt sign. Interesting. We do want the pitot heat on because it's freezing outside. I think otherwise we're good to go. Okay, let's go and get the altitude calibrated. So we're good on the QNH. 2,300 feet above sea level, where we are at the moment at Arrowsmith. So let's go and have a little look at the. Oh, let's just go and check the levels again. So we're looking okay. I'll check the levels again in a moment, make sure it's not too loud and not too quiet. Let's go and check our route. So The first leg is going to take us out across the hills, 45 miles to Franz Josef Aerodrome on the north coast of New Zealand. Then we're going to head south down to Mount Cook and Glen Tanna, then Pukaki, and then across to Wanaka, then Alexandra, then Queenstown. Obviously we'll be navigating through the valleys along the way, Milford Sound, Martins Bay, and then round to Neil's Beach where we will finish. Okay, have we got... No, we haven't got any altitude plots in Little Nav Map, which is super unhelpful, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to go for... Yeah, 5,000 feet is probably fine for if we do put the aircraft on autopilot, but I don't envisage us using it that much. We'll probably fly most of the way. As you can see, the weather is not cooperating with us today. And I haven't got the flight plan programmed in, which is not really helpful of me, is it? Should we go and do that before we get started? Okay, so flight plan. Can we get is there a closer view of the radio stack? I don't really know the views in the Twin Otter. No, there isn't. That's super helpful then, isn't it? So let's just go across here and look very closely at it with our eyes. Okay, so our takeoff position is NZMH. So we put the cursor in here. We go to N. Z. Should have gone the other way through the alphabet, shouldn't I? MH, Mike Hotel. And we press enter. Then we roll to the next waypoint, and we're going towards Franz Josef, which is NZFJ. So we should be able to go N, Z. It should help us. FJ. It's probably quicker to go that way around, isn't it? Enter. Next waypoint will be Mount Cook, NZMC. So next one, NZ, Mount Cook, MC. MC. Next one after that is Glen Tanna, NZGT. So N, Z, GT. Enter. And the next one after Glen Tanna will be Pukaki, NZUK. NZUK. Enter. And the next one after that is Wanaka, NZWF. NZWF. And then Alexandra, NZLX. Whoops. There it is. And then after Alexandra, it's on to Queenstown, NZQN. NZQN. Whoops. enter. And then Milford Sound, NZMF. And then Martins Bay, NZMJ. NZMJ. And then NZQE. NZQE. Georgetown, there it is. And then the final one is NZWE. NZWE. And there we go. That's our route programmed. So we now get a nice line on the map, and we can increase the range to see some of the waypoints, which is great. Aussie Coffee Bean, greatly enjoy your videos and find them most helpful, thank you. Well, thank you for watching, Aussie Coffee Bean. I'm about to go and take off now, so you'll excuse me if I look busy for a couple of minutes. I assure you I only look busy. I'm not actually that busy. Right, let's try the engines. Engines are good. Parking brake is off. Okay, so which way is the wind? Let's go and check the map where we are. Okay, so 3 knot crosswind for takeoff is nothing. It's just a rainy day in New Zealand, I'm afraid. It's overcast and there's a lot of low cloud around. Okay, so let's look up. Watching the indicated airspeed there down at the bottom left, 60 knots, and rotate, and we just leave the ground. I could have used more flap there, to be honest. And we turn left, so it flaps up. Should we try and clear this murk before we go anywhere? I think this is quite local, this rainstorm, but it's no fun flying through it, that's for certain. I mean, you can see the beginnings of surrounding hills. We go over that side. You can see it's going to be a horrible, horrible day. So I think we may circle a little bit before we start our journey, seeing as we can't see what's in front of us at the moment. It's horrific rainstorms and turbulence. So just coming up through 5,000 feet. Five and a half thousand feet. I just want to get out of the rain, to be honest. I can't see the clouds being much higher than 8 or 10,000 feet, but we'll see. Yeah, you can see we're coming out of it already. But at least we'll be able to see the hills poking up out of the clouds. Well, that's the plan anyway. So while we're just circling, let's have a look at our plot on the ground here. So we could go for 254 degrees now, couldn't we? So let's do that. So if we just trim back on the elevator a little bit. I'm just watching the indicated, sorry, the rate of climb here. So about 1500 feet a minute, which is fine. I'm just trimming it down a little bit to maintain that. We're accelerating as well. I'm going to come off the throttle a little bit, so we're not in the red on the torque. So if we can stabilise at about 1,000 feet a minute, which we've just done. And let's go and switch the autopilot on. So it's levelled us out. It's effectively... Let's go for then, what are we at the moment? Altitude 7,900, so let's go for 10,000. And to get there we're going to have to go and use vertical speed mode. So 1,000 feet a minute. Going to go and move the heading bug as well. So let's just get the yoke out of the way for the moment. How do we do that on this one? Click down here, I suppose. Yeah, there you go. So the heading bug is on the wrong side. Of course it is, because it's always on the wrong side of the compass when you need it. And they took away the acceleration, so you can't move it around quickly either. So what direction did we need to be going? 254. That's about there. Okay, so then we go to heading mode. So the airplane's tracking back towards that. We're climbing at, I think I said 1,000 feet a minute, didn't I? Yeah, there we go, look, you can see it on the vertical speed. Should we put the yoke back, because it looks quite nice with it there, doesn't it? And hopefully we'll avoid the hills. So if we have a look from outside, it's going to be very loud and very noisy for a few moments. See, this is dangerous because look, the hills are right there. And 10,000 feet is about where most of them top out. But I haven't got any sectional charts, which is really kind of dangerous in these clouds. What altitude are we at? I mean, it looks fine in front of us now. So we're just coming up towards 10,000 feet. So let's stop cheating by looking outside and just look out the windows. So you can see, look, yeah, this hill's not far below us. What about this side? About the front. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. Just have to keep an eye out to see if any massive hills appear right in front of us. So let's have a look at the chart. We're flying straight towards Franz Josef Aerodrome, so we may circle when we get there because we have no real reference. So let's go and adjust this VFR plot so we know we're supposed to be at 10,000 feet in between these airfields. Unfortunately, we don't know the elevation of each airfield. Well, I guess we can check each one here. I mean, this is going to be at sea level, obviously. So we can see, yeah, it's 291 feet. But we'll see. When we get a bit closer, hopefully we'll come out of this cloud and we'll be able to see where we're going. Let's go and check the volume levels. Just make sure that the engine isn't completely drowning me out. No, it's looking good. Okay, so a bit of a paranoid flight in horrible weather across New Zealand. It's live weather, so this is the the local weather and time for New Zealand at the moment. And you can see why I'm so worried about what's inside those clouds, because you can see what's inside those clouds. And I have no sectional charts, and yeah, this is getting a bit dicey. Look, that would only be a few hundred feet clearance if we flew over there. I think we'll be good. I mean, we could obviously have a close look at the chart, and yeah, we're crossing hills all the time. So that's obviously that tall peak there, which was 2,200 meters. So if you multiply that by 3, that's 9,000 feet, isn't it? Or more than that, because it's 200, so 9,800-ish. So that explains why these peaks are so close to us. There's a rainbow down there, look. It's terrifying weather, I think you'd describe it as. Let's see what the peak volume's coming out at. So when we've got the engines, no, it's not too bad. So you can hear me over the engines, which is the main thing. It's just noisy and drony, isn't it? So there you go, look how spectacular the scenery is. Of course, if we didn't have horrendous weather, it'd be even better. But we don't. We're going with the real thing. We're being realistic. This may make approach fun at the other end, but we'll see. Yeah, some nice fluffy white clouds over New Zealand. Fun times. Okay, let's go and centre our view back up. See, we can see another high peak over here. Look at that one, that's at the same level as us. This is why I'm so paranoid. So we are at 10,000 feet and we can see hilltops in the clouds that are as high as us. Well, I think we would clear that, but there's another one over there, look. It's a bit nervy, isn't it? Oh, look at those valleys. They're amazing, aren't they? The rain pouring into them, filling the streams up and rivers. What about the other side? Whoa. Yeah, see, inside these clouds there are mountains, and we could slam into them if we're not careful. Excuse me if I'm being paranoid. Yeah, G-flat, it is very, very dangerous. And I'm doing this without sectional charts, so I might have to climb. Because you can see there are hills coming in the distance that are even worse. Or even higher, I should say. That I've climbed to... yeah, this isn't worth the risk. Let's go to 12. So we're climbing to 12,000 feet at 1,000 foot a minute, because otherwise this is just asking for trouble. And there's nothing there now, look, but what's inside these clouds you just don't know. I mean, yeah, look at that. It's a sheer rock face all the way up there. And oh my word. Good job we climbed, eh? We would have been remarkably close to some of that. Look at the scenery. It's incredible. How does this simulator do it? It's just absolutely incredible, isn't it? Yeah, I think the couple of thousand feet was worth it, wasn't it? Okay, it was exciting being at 10,000 feet and looking in front of us for mountainsides, but just not worth the risk. Okay, let's have a look around. Let's see what's below us even. That's just mad, isn't it? There's a lake down there, look. Various rivers down in between the mountains, pouring down with rain into that valley. Okay, so the mountains are getting less. I think we can see the sea over there. So we're getting closer to our destination. Look at the mountains. We're going to be going that way soon. Oh my word. And there's even clouds funneling down the valleys. It's just mad. Okay, let's go and have a look at the chart. So we've got about 16 miles to run, a little bit less. So I'm going to start descending. Oops, I pressed the wrong button then. Heading, this one, sorry. So let's go for 6,000 feet to be, or no, down to 5,000. And we'll just come down, because by the time we get down, we'll already be there. So we're coming down at 1,000 feet a minute. Just keep an eye on the throttles, just so we don't overspeed. I think we're going to be good. We're obviously coming down incredibly quickly, but should be fine. Okay. So we're coming down over the basin now where the airfield is. So as long as we know where we are and we know where these hills are, hopefully we can descend. Maybe if we fly out over the sea to Mulgi and come back. Because we're going to have zero visibility for a few moments while we're in the cloud. But we know from the chart that we are not near the sea. Oh, so not near the hills. So I've just cut the engines. Yeah, we can see the fields down here. So we've got a good reference of where we are. So I've pulled the engines back to idle, by the way. Hopefully when we get below the cloud we'll be able to see the airstrip. So let's go and compare this on the map. So it should be over here somewhere. Is there a straight line I can see there? This is no fun, is it? This is absolutely terrifying. If this was real, this would be terrifying. Because we need to keep an eye on this hillside right in front of us that we're flying directly towards. We're descending very quickly as well. So we're watching the artificial horizon to get our reference. Here comes the rain. I'm not happy about this. I'm pulling the nose up. We're at 2,200 feet and we can see nothing. I mean, we're heading the right direction. We're going out towards the sea. Ha! Hooray! We can see the ground. Hurrah! So now we just need to find the airstrip. Can anybody see an airstrip? Should be out of the right hand window if there wasn't a huge rainstorm in the way. This is no fun at all. Okay, let's go for some flaps. Are we able to... Right, we're keeping half an eye on. Let's have a look. If I go like that, I thought we could click on panels. Obviously not in this aircraft. That's great. I'm just watching the map there to see if we can use it. I mean, according to the map, we're right over the runway. Oh, this is terrible, isn't it? We're just going to have to circle, I guess. That cloud is right over the runway. We're just going to have to wait for the weather to pass. Okay, we'll have another go. Going to turn back round again in a moment and look for the runway again. I think we might be here for a little while trying to find the airfield. Well, we know where it is, it's just being able to see it to land, because we haven't got ILS. Okay, so we're turning back towards the runway again. Oh, look at that, it's greying out as we approach every time. It's here somewhere. That is the runway, isn't it? Okay, that's the touch and go done. I'm off. I'm leaving. Look at the rain! Oh my word! That's torrential. And it was right over the runway. Okay, we're climbing out. We're safe. Oh my word, I'm not doing that again. Oh well, it's given the aeroplane a clean, hey? I have never seen rain like that before. Okay, let's zoom out. So we want to go 156 degrees magnetic to our next destination. So let's go and do this in a calm and reasonable manner. 156 degrees. Can I get there before the compass does? Okay, there's the compass heading set. I'll just avoid smashing into this hill. So we pull the throttles back to cruise. And start trimming the elevators back down. Plane's being thrown around by quite a lot of turbulence. Okay, so we're up to 3,000 feet. We want to go back for 10,000 feet again, don't we? Whoops. So let's spin this round to get to 10 at least, or 12 even. Turn autopilot on, heading mode on, vertical speed is already highlighted. It's at 1,000 feet a minute, so it's going to climb out at what we want to do, which is good. And we just hope we're going to be high enough by the time we hit the hills, because I don't think we're going to be able to see them quickly enough. Let's have a look at the map. Oh, this is quite shallow hills here. So we've got a good 10 miles to gain altitude. So yeah, you can see there's a hill line directly in front of us, but we're climbing all the time, so we should be good. This is just downright scary though, isn't it? Now we're going to get a clear view of a hill and some mountains behind it. Right, let's go for a higher climb rate, shall we? Because this can do it. I just don't... I was trying to keep the airspeed up, but we'll go for 1500 feet a minute. And keep an eye on the indicated airspeed, make sure we don't get too slow. Just having a quick look at the engine instruments, everything looks fine. Got loads of fuel. Sunshine! For a few moments. It's looking like out of this side. Obviously it's just a hole in the cloud where we had some sunshine peeking through. Herdison is asking, am I using Rex Weatherforce? No, I never use any add-ons for the scenery or the weather. So this is absolutely out of the box live weather from Flight Simulator, and isn't it good at it? So I would say don't waste your money on weather add-ons. The simulator is very, very good, and they're making it better all the time. It's you can see this has been terrifying so far. Okay, what's in that cloud that I don't know about? I think that was just telling us about the mountain that was directly underneath us, but this is terrifying now because we can't see anything. I think we'll be good. Let's have a quick look at the map. let's check the peaks. So that was about 1500, 1600-ish. This one is 1500 on our flight path. We're fine with that. That's 1600. This one is, oh dear, 2000. And we can't see anything. And we're going straight for the peak. Okay, executive decision. We're turning left to 120. Which takes us towards an even higher peak. What have we just avoided? Let's have a look. It's inside that blooming cloud, isn't it? So we can turn right back onto our course in a moment. It's right in there. Oh my word. I think we dodged a bullet. Okay, so let's turn back right again. Whoops. To about 160 degrees. Yeah, because look, that's... Oh, I don't know, I think that was okay. That's obviously certainly a lot higher than that was. Okay. And we're still climbing. So we're just coming up to 10,000. What is your favourite plane in the sim so far? Is asked by Ian. Oh, I don't know. This one's good fun. If you like a nice stressful evening. I think favourite plane... Oh, I'm getting slow. I need to get rid of the descent rate because obviously we're getting up into the thin air. So we'll take it down to 500 feet a minute now. And you see the indicated airspeed is coming up. Okay, favourite plane, probably the DC-6, the big old lumbering giant, purely because it's a mental challenge to keep the thing in the air. In terms of being the most accurate aircraft in the game, probably the Kodiak. The flight model on it is fantastic. You can spin it properly. Yeah, it's a real handful if you get outside of its flight envelope. Yeah, you can see we would have hit those if we hadn't played around with the direction. Oh my word. The hills are hiding in the clouds. Why did I pick today to do this trip? It's going to make you seasick. Can you imagine sitting in this if you had VR goggles on? It would make you feel sick, wouldn't it? Being thrown around, not being able to see anything. Sit here having panic attacks, probably. How are we doing on the chart? So we're coming over Mount Cook. Oh my word. Okay, let's come off the autopilot. This is going to be stupidly dangerous. So what I'm doing is dropping the flaps to full. And then we're going to do a very steep descent. Can we go for reverse on the engines? We can. I'm not sure that's realistic, but because obviously if you went reverse pitch in flight, you'd wreck the engines. I'm hoping I've still got engines out there. So yeah, you can see the flaps are like barn doors on this thing when they're extended all the way down. So where are we? So we need to do, if we sit up we can see through this gap, hopefully in the cloud down here. So let's dive for the floor, because we can, because the flaps are hanging down, and let's follow the mountainside down. It's probably the safest way actually. Oh, we can't go more than 100. Going beyond the speed limit of the flaps. I'll wreck them if I'm not careful. So I need to make sure I go in a straight line now. So we are coming down basically like a Stuka. Here comes the rain again. Hey, we can see the ground. A little bit. So if we turn towards the flat area at least. Now if we look over on the GPS. So the runway is this way. Again, the runway is right in the thick cloud where we can't see anything. But it's getting better. There's the runway, right in front of us. Move the mouse out of the way. Stupid thing. Full throttle and climb out. And raise the flaps and get the airspeed back and get the climb going again. And I think if we turn right a little bit and just hope for the best, and I'll go and have a look at the chart again. So yeah, it's probably 150 again. So autopilot on, heading mode on, vertical speed mode is already on, but we need to go for at least 1500 feet a minute to begin with. Oh, we're fine. So we don't need to come up anywhere near as high, so we'll go for altitude hold mode instead of climbing. And pull the engines back. So we're heading along to Glen Tanner. So if we turn... It's a shame the weather's like this, because New Zealand is spectacular. I mean, we could change it. Should we do it? Otherwise, this is going to be the most horrendous live stream ever. What should we do? Oh, it's on live. It's not on live weather. It's on rain. Oh, idiot. There we go. We have got rid of the rain. There's the live weather. I thought it was a bit strange because I knew it was raining at the beginning of the flight. Okay, at least it gave us spectacular weather though, didn't it? The reason the rain was on, I was messing around doing low visibility demonstrations with VOR radios the other night. That's why. Okay, so we're just flying by hand.
Don't sink.
Sounds like the radio alarm you'd hear on a battleship, doesn't it? Don't sink. Okay, flaps are at 20 degrees.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Minimums.
It's amazing how much thrust over the flaps lifts this plane, isn't it? Okay, we should get some spectacular views then now. So next is directly south to Pikaki, and then we turn round. So should we get some height anyway, just so you get to see some of those mountains? It's doing a really bizarre rendering thing with the runway there. Yeah, Hudson has said, there you go, streamer's mistake. That was a classic. That I hadn't gone and checked the weather before I took off, and I knew it was raining at the departure airport, so I didn't expect anything else. Okay, it made it unintentionally more exciting, I guess. It's interesting that they've got the bay here is frozen over, look. Off into Lord of the Rings country, isn't it? Okay, let's get the autopilot on, altitude hold on. Heading mode. And let the airplane fly into the hillside. Yeah, on about the big commercial jets, it's strange. Once the 737 arrives, it's going to be good fun. Because I know how to fly it from X-Plane. I've got a study level version of it called the Zebo mod for X-Plane. It keeps you busy, and there's a lot more to do. In the A320, the Airbus, any of the Airbus family to be honest, yeah, you do some programming on the ground, but there's an awful lot is done for you by the systems on the aircraft. And it's almost boring. You get off the runway, you switch the airplane on, and it gets on with it. And you can basically go and make a cup of tea. Obviously, a real pilot wouldn't do that because they'd be monitoring everything to make sure it's done everything. But basically, if you've done everything right, so you're doing a 2-hour flight, that's an hour and a half of doing nothing. And just then a few hours, or 10 minutes at each end of just making sure things are configured correctly. But the A320 will land itself very successfully if it's got ILS. And if it's got dual mode on the ILS, it will, it's crazy. And it will land itself really nicely, dead on the centre line. And obviously in zero visibility as well. Okay, let's pull the engines back before we blow them to bits. Just watching the temperatures here, they were in the red. Okay, so where are we? Shall we skip Pikaki and go straight into Wanaka? Well, how far away is it? Let's have a look. It's over there, you can see it. It's a bit of a plain piece of land, isn't it? Yeah, let's carry on. Twin Otter looks the part, doesn't it? There's a thing called the drone camera as well, where you can fly the camera around the aeroplane. If you've got an Xbox controller, which I have in the drawer, I just haven't got it plugged in, you can use the Xbox controller to control the camera. Something that's quite cool actually, I don't know if anybody's seen this in Flight Sim, if you go into this is called the showcase camera, it's got focus controls. So you've got focus mode, at the moment it's disabled. If I put it on auto, it will behave like a proper camera. So notice the background has gone out of focus. So the closer the subject is in the front of the camera, the shorter the depth of field becomes, just like a real camera. Yeah, you see that? So suddenly the background is out of focus. Unfortunately, you can't control the amount of depth of field not very easily. You haven't got normal camera controls, so you can see what it's doing. So it's kind of cool if you look at the end of a wing, for example. So if we just go up, so we've got the light focused, for example, in the centre of shot. Yeah, there you go. So then the rest of the aeroplane becomes out of focus. But that's how you get the pretty screenshots, is you put you play with the depth of field on the camera. Obviously, on a nice bright day, the way a camera works, the more light you've got, the longer the depth of field is anyway. Because the smaller the hole is on the aperture. I did photography at college, I'm not going to go and explain how cameras work. It's quite cool though, isn't it? So if we turn that back to manual, you get to control the focus yourself. So obviously you can focus the camera, or you just disable it and then it goes for everything's in focus, so it doesn't simulate it at all. So yeah, the focus mode on the showcase camera is how you get the really pretty screenshots. Another option, there's a piece of software called Reshade that sits in between the simulator and the graphics card, and you can effectively do like Instagram filters on live in the sim, and it doesn't really affect the frame rate. So if you want to go potty with, making the sim look pretty, you can do that. Okay, so what's the next leg? Is 207 degrees, 47 miles down to Wanaka, so 207. So let's turn this round to 207 degrees on the autopilot, and we're on our way. Now we are going to cross into hills, so we are going to need to climb. So let's go for 10,000 feet now. We go to vertical speed mode over here, and we say 1,000 feet a minute please, and the plane will get on with it. We have actually got over here a flight plan, and it is following it. So what we could do is put it into GPS mode on the autopilot, and we could say to the autopilot, can you follow the flight plan please? So it's going to do that. So you can see it's swaying left. That's because we are to the right of the flight plan line. Yeah, so the plane has turned left and it's going to intercept it, join the line, and then turn right again. Yeah. So I forgot that. We programmed the flight plan in, didn't we? So we may as well use nav mode rather than navigating ourselves. So it's coming up to 6,500 feet. Aircraft's good, flaps are up, the mixture's good, the throttles are about 80%. We're looking good. and the pitch is good. On a turboprop, you've got several controls. So you've got the throttle, then you've got the propeller, or pitch, as you might call it, and then you've got the fuel. The fuel isn't really simulated properly in Flight Sim, so it's either on or off. In the real plane, you can obviously restrict the fuel as well. Propellers, though, to get the most efficient cut through the air, they need to be about 80%. So for cruise, you have throttle and propellers at 80%. I only figured that out by reading the instructions for this aeroplane. But there are people around that have gone and done hours and hours in the aeroplane and figured out the fuel burn rate and the distance covered, and they've done the maths. It's they don't mess around with particular, with like about right, like I've done it. They put it on exactly the right amount of throttle and pitch for the altitude, because obviously it changes with altitude, because the higher you get, the thinner the air is. So the whole equation of what pitch to have the propellers at changes. So we've got a little way to go. I'm going to go make a coffee. Yeah, we've got about, I don't know, 35 miles left to go. And we're high enough now. We can see over the top of the hills. So I'll put it on the outside view. And I guess we'll look back that way. I'm going to go make a coffee. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Have coffee. Hurrah! Where are we then? Let's have a look at the map. Range. This should tell us how far. So 26.3 miles to the next waypoint. So if we up the range, we should be able to see the waypoint. There it is. About halfway. Okay, let's go and enjoy the scenery out the window. Can't go low enough to see out the windows, can we? I wonder. Oh, what does that? Okay, what does Alt and the keys do? Nothing. Page up and page down? Okay, so they haven't been... Oh no, page up is doing something on the map at the front of the aircraft. Okay, I won't use that then. I was just looking to see if there was a key that I could use to translate the camera. The keypad isn't being used. Oh, it is. That was roll. I think I just trimmed the aircraft accidentally. Have I turned the autopilot off? No. It's still on nav mode. It's still on altitude hold mode. I'll stop pressing buttons. What's it looking like out the front? Strange landscape, isn't it? But we are at 10,000 feet, I guess, so it does look a bit odd. Tell you what, we could have a bit of fun this evening with the live stream. Who wants to land at the next airfield and switch to DCS? Go and take a fighter jet for a flight. So if you've not heard of it, DCS is a very, very accurate combat flight simulator. And I have it on here, and I have the Nellis test range scenery, so we can go and fly over Nevada if you want. There's Ken. Hi, Ken. They're good. Yep, Dad's slowly getting better. He's back flying again. So where are we? So we're just coming in towards Wanaka. So shall we start descending? Yeah, these hills look quite high though, don't they? Maybe we'll come down to about 8,000 or 7,000 feet maybe. So if we just go and nip over to the autopilot, set the vertical speed to come down at 1,000 feet a minute, and keep an eye on it while it's doing it. So you've got the airspeed here, indicated airspeed is creeping up obviously, altitude is coming down, indicated vertical speed is 1,000 feet a minute, and we're following the course. Well, the heading bug isn't being used anymore because we've got the autopilot in nav mode. Actually, we'll do a few more legs. We'll get as far as Queenstown before I switch over to DCS. Because Queenstown, the approach in is fantastic. So maybe we cut out Alexandra from our flight plan. I'm just trying to think what's the most exciting way in. If we went along the edge of these hills and then up through the valley to get into Queenstown, that's a pretty good way in. Yeah. Yeah, so once we leave Wanaka, we'll head southeast. See, that compass rose is wrong. Because look at the angles. The magnetic deviation in, I guess that's true north it's showing, not magnetic north. But the magnetic deviation in New Zealand is huge. So 180 is kind of that direction. So yeah, that's obviously true north, not magnetic north. Okay. Autopilot off. Cut the engines back. Let's come in low over the hills, have some fun. Obviously we're going to be triggering warnings with flying this thing like a lunatic, but so where is the airfield? Directly in front of us, apparently. Is that it over here? I just vaguely remember this place. Is that it down there? I think it might be. Or is it tight against the hill? I really can't remember. Being thrown around by turbulence, that's for sure. I think that's it over there. That doesn't look right. It's just a road. Okay, it's away across the valley, yeah. I think that's the airport buildings we can see directly in front of us. So if I get a bit of altitude and turn left, and then we'll turn in towards the runway. There we go, there's the runway.
Sink rate. 500. Sink rate. Minimums. Minimums. Hold up. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Okay, flaps up. We're going to go straight for Queenstown, but we're going to double back to do it.
Banking. 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 Banking.
So you're going to chase this car.
Banking. Hold up. Minimums. Minimums. Hold up.
Oh, the car disappeared.
100. Hold up. 50. 40. 30.
It's crazy that simulators have all this detail in them, isn't it?
Too low. Terrain. Don't sink. Too low. Terrain.
Okay, let's pull the throttles back to cruise again.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
Should we shut this thing up and get some height?
Too low. Terrain.
Okay, autopilot on, altitude hold on, heading mode on.
Terrain.
Except we're going the wrong way, so let's just straighten that out. Just waiting for the gyro to adjust itself, and it's not going to have time, is it? I'm going to have to intervene. Okay, so we're coming around the side of the hill, and then we're going to weave our way into Queenstown. It's quite a spectacular approach into Queenstown through the hills. And then we'll stop at Queenstown, and then we'll switch over to DCS and have some fun. What is the biggest difference between Flight Simulator on the Xbox versus the PC? That's a really good question, because I've not seen it on the Xbox. possibly being able to do things like that. You obviously can't run other software at the same time. So I'm able to run applications on the PC that integrate with Flight Simulator, like Discord, for example. Like recording the screen. Obviously Xbox has its own way of recording things, but I'm just streaming this through a piece of software called OBS. And I could do a lot more with it than I do. All I typically do is just capture the screen and the microphone. But I could be doing titling and all kinds of stuff. And picture in picture, I could have a webcam. Well, there is a webcam pointing at me, I just never switch it on. So it's the other stuff. The simulator will be very similar. The controls are going to be with an Xbox controller. It's going to be quite dreadful, but I imagine you can buy all kinds of controllers for it these days. And I think does the USB controllers work on the Xbox? Because if they do, the Thrustmaster ones will work. So I've got the Airbus stick and throttle kit, so that should all work, I would imagine. And I think you can plug a mouse in as well, can't you, with an Xbox, which would help enormously. Because if you imagine trying to go and click on instruments and things with an Xbox controller, it's going to be a nightmare. Okay, so we fly along the water. Should we go and fly along the water? So actually go and see some water for a change. Okay, we're about to overspeed the airframe. Better not do that. I just thought it might be fun to go and see some water for a change. Yeah, it would be good to have a keyboard as well. So if you get an Xbox and kind of use it as a PC, then Flight Sim becomes usable, probably. You know, you've got a keyboard and a mouse plugged in and controllers. If you've only got an Xbox controller, it's going to be a struggle. And you're going to be stuck with the planes that you can install from the marketplace as well. So none of the freebies you can download online will be available to you, and none of the mods for them. So a good example of that is the fly-by-wire mod for the A320 that completely transforms it into a much better aircraft. It's a downloadable mod that you can only do it on the PC. You can't meddle with the game on the Xbox. And there's, you know, you can't download any of the free sceneries people have made. And there's terabytes of it now. A massive community has built up around it, building scenery and aircraft and liveries and things like that. None of that's going to be available on the Xbox, unless you've got some way of hacking it into it, maybe. Oh, is that really going to keep saying that while we're over the water? Trying to see, there's the water, there's our reflection. Hooray! I'm not going to get too close. I don't know how easily this will nose into the water. Otherwise we could leave streams in the water, which is always good fun. I guess we could try it briefly, couldn't we? Let's see if we can leave a stream in the water. So difficult to judge it. No, I'm not going to dare. But isn't it amazing how good it is at doing water textures? And the reflections as well.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
Okay, let's pull up before that voice drives me completely round the bend. Okay, so we're about to take the right turn into the valley that takes us towards Queenstown.
Terrain.
On the plus side, if you did want to use the Xbox, you can use Discord on a mobile phone to do voice comms while you're flying.
Terrain.
So if you wanted to fly alongside people on the PC version, which you can because it's the same multiplayer system, you could use a mobile phone.
Terrain.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get hairy,
Terrain.
but also quite spectacular.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
So if we go and have a look at the map just to refresh our memory, we are going to fly along this valley and come out at Queenstown.
Terrain. Terrain.
And we're going to start getting quite a lot of turbulence. I'm going to climb a little bit just to stop the warnings. I think it's when you get land within 1,000 feet underneath the aircraft, the sensors go off and warn you. Seeing as normal civil aviation, you're not supposed to be within 1,000 feet of the ground anyway. Kind of makes sense.
Banking. Terrain. Banking. 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 Terrain.
Okay, so where do we turn? Okay, we just follow this into the next valley then and turn right. Which is fine, we can do that.
Terrain.
Swig of coffee. Make our way towards Queenstown.
Terrain. 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 Too low. Terrain. Terrain.
Now, as far as I remember, We fly straight along this valley. Yeah, then hug the left side and it takes us straight in.
Terrain.
We can see an aircraft in front of us. You can see the nav lights flashing. This kind of scenery is where flight sim's at its best, isn't it? It's so real. Ruben is asking, when flying a low or high altitude airway from say Glasgow to London City, how accurate do you find all the altitude commands? Or just ATC in general? Do you mean the ATC built into the game? The ATC is pretty good actually, if you follow it accurately. People complain about it keeps giving them different instructions. That's usually because they've not been doing as they're told, or they've been too slow, which comes back to a video I recorded the other day. Most of the problems people have when they start, or some people have the problems all the time with using the big jets, is they let the airplane get away from them, and by the time they've reacted to what's going on, it's too late, and then they'll go and complain and say it's the airplane's fault, it's ATC's fault. They'll blame everybody except themselves for it. So yeah, the ATC in the game is pretty good. It's no substitute for something like VATSIM, where you've got real people that you're talking to on the radio. A lot of people are intimidated by the likes of VATSIM, but there's lots of virtual airlines around. There's one I regularly fly with where they do kind of a more relaxed version of ATC called MyAir. If you search for MyAir Virtual on the internet, they've got a Discord server as well, and they do regular flights. You can see the runway directly in front of us here. So this isn't the spectacular approach I was thinking of. So we're coming into Queenstown. The really spectacular one is coming into Milford Sound. You kind of weave through a valley and land. But we're not doing that today. We're going to stop at Queenstown and then go and jump in a fighter jet. So I'll start a second live stream in a few minutes. Yeah, I'll start a live stream using DCS. It might be a few minutes. I've got to go and set the controller up. I've not actually set this Airbus controller up with DCS yet. So that's going to be fun. Or I don't think I have. I'll have to check. Okay, let's get rid of the airspeed. Ready for flaps now. And at 90 knots we can go for the next stage of flaps, which we've just done. Somebody's just taken off ahead of us. And something aerobatic by the look of it.
500. Minimums. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 9.
Okay, so flaps up. I do believe there's a DC-6 at the end. So mentioned earlier about DC-6 is probably my favourite aircraft. We're about to taxi past one. And it will sound glorious. So we'll try and avoid him. That's the DC-6. Isn't it amazing? Shiny. Okay, we're going to park straight up here. Parking brake on. Fuel pumps off. What am I doing? Generators. Let's have a look. Off. Lights off. Pitot heat off. Engine fuel off. Pitch off. Throttles are already on idle. And then turn the electric off, which we've already done. And there we go. Let's wait for the engines to spool down. So what are the drawbacks of DCS compared to Microsoft Flight Sim? DCS doesn't cover the whole world, and it doesn't cover the ground as accurately, but the flight models leave Flight Sim in the dust, and all of the weapon systems work. So you can shoot stuff and it blows up, and if you hit the ground you blow up and you sprinkle bits all over the floor. So I'll start a live stream in a few minutes time. I'm going to end this one now, okay? So I'm going to go and stop streaming. I'll be back online in about 5 minutes with